Welcome to Stitches in Time, the podcast discussing Doctor Who the way it was meant to be watched, in chronological order, one clip at a time, starting at the Big Bang and ending with the heat death of the universe. I'm Becca, the Matrix Archivist, and I spent the last 12 years of my life meticulously editing the entire televised Doctor Who universe into chronological order.
And I'm Mandy, and I also recently went through my closet and got rid of a bunch of stuff.
I did too, actually. I'm in my new apartment. It's kind of a mess. Things are chaotic, but
it's very nice. There's a time void behind you at all times, according to what I've
Yeah.
seen of your apartment, because I only see it when we're recording.
Yeah. Anything I don't need anymore, I just throw into the time vortex, and
Oh, that's really convenient, because I have like
really nice.
all of my stuff. I still have to actually go take to the donation center. So now it's just in bags. It'd be so much more convenient to just have a time vortex to throw things into.
Yeah, well, if you want to come over and throw things into my time vortex.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean.
I'm amazed that rentals near the Untempered Schism were so affordable.
They're really not. I'm paying an arm and a leg. It's insane. But it's so convenient. Okay.
And they allow dogs.
True.
That's good.
Yes, and joining us once again is our favorite nemesis, Ben Paddon.
Hello.
You're not very good at being a nemesis, I gotta say.
I'm morally and ethically opposed to everything that is happening here, but that doesn't mean I can't have a good time while I'm participating in something that I'm fundamentally opposed to.
Yeah. Look,
That's capitalism, baby.
Hell yeah.
Like, if we didn't have you on our show, how else would you express your disdain for Stitches in Time?
Yeah, I mean, it's not like there's any kind of, like, social networks to expose the world to your fraud. I remember having a conversation with my dear and departed friend, Seb Patrick, a few years ago, about how we didn't understand why anybody would want to do a chronological watch of the MCU movies, because some of the movies jump around in time, and also they keep making, here's a fun thing, new Marvel movies, some of which are set earlier in the timeline, so you invalidate that previous watch through, and you have to do it again in order to be quote-unquote current, but also the stuff that happens in the past in a Marvel movie is relevant to that story. It's not relevant to... So doing that for Doctor Who, for which there is 1 billion hours of, fundamentally, it makes my ears bleed.
I don't understand.
Having spent a lot of time both watching Doctor Who in the wrong order, the BBC order, and now the correct order, the Stitches in Time order, I actually believe that the best way to watch Doctor Who is to reconsider.
What if you reconsider and you come to the conclusion that you want to watch Doctor Who?
Look at Tom Baker's face again and reconsider.
Mandy hates Tom Baker's face so much.
And you keep making me, like, every time I think that I'm gonna have a good time, he just shows up again.
Do you know the biggest irony? The only Doctor Who story that Mandy has paid money to purchase is a VHS copy of Tom Baker's first story, Robot.
Wow.
Because I love my wife. I hate Tom Baker, but I love my wife more.
That is good. I'm glad
Robot was the first Doctor Who VHS that I owned as a kid. So when I mentioned that to Mandy was like, I can go on Amazon.com, search, $1 on a VHS copy of Robot.
It's good. It's the American VHS copy as well.
Oh, okay. So they dubbed over with the American accents?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what an American VHS means.
It means it's NTSC instead of PAL.
Oh, okay.
And they're from Montana.
Yes.
Wow, there sure is a robot here, Doctor. I'm Nicholas Courtney as Brigadier Lethbridge Stewart.
I'm pretty sure the American dub of Robot just uses audio from a Trump rally for that little fascist get-together that happens. Horrible. Mandy, we should watch Robot sometime.
We will watch it when I have to do it for this show.
So
and
in
not
about
a moment sooner.
3 to 5 years. Okay, cool.
You can't make me look at that man's face more than I am contractually obligated to.
I was not aware that you and Becca had a contract.
Yep, it's binding.
A blood contract. Mostly Becca's blood, which is weird because you're the one who asked Mandy to do the... Oh well. I'm not your lawyer.
My blood's the only blood that works. I don't know. I don't read the Necronomicon, I just enforce it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I was actually out of blood at the time.
It's at least what Mandy told me. And, like, why would she lie about that, you know?
Yeah, you said, Mandy, I need you to sign this in blood. And Mandy said, hang on. Walked over to the fridge, grabbed a jar. Like, oh, no, I'm sorry, I'm fresh out.
and then walked over to me with a knife, split my hand open, and said, here, this'll do.
If you can't steal the blood of one of your closest friends, store-bought is fine.
True. Yeah, today we're talking about the creature from the pit.
Who is not a robot.
But not the part of it with the creature in the pit.
Yeah, I gotta say, 0 pits in this.
Shockingly few creatures.
I would like to call into the time vortex and suggest a revision. There's a typo in this.
In this section of Stitches in Time?
Yeah.
Oh, wait, is there? What did I say?
There's like an I and an E that have to get swapped.
Oh no!
Was it with the word transceiver?
Yes.
Oh my god.
How many years, Becca? How many years has this typo shamed you?
God damn. You know what? Damn. I'm never going to recover from this.
You know, I before E, except after C.
I will never financially recover.
I want the title of this episode to be Except After C.
Except after... Yes, okay, well, I will fix that in future edits of this.
Yeah.
Because, yes, this is the scene, segueing nicely into the what's happening in the scene. It's where Tom Baker, the 12th Doctor, and Lala Ward, the...
First Romana.
First Romana. It's the only Romana we've seen.
Yeah.
Lala Ward, the most beautiful woman.
And K-9 Mark 1 reinstall the emergency transceiver on the TARDIS.
A Mark III emergency transceiver, mistress.
You mean it's part of the TARDIS?
Correct, mistress.
Then why isn't it plugged in?
I love the Doctor's energy in this whole scene because, yeah, like, people use that to try to contact me. So I wanna dispose of it and throw it in the garbage. It's junk.
But it's an awful nuisance.
You mean you kept getting calls from Gallifrey all the time?
Yes.
Would you do this?
Yes.
Would you do that?
Yes, such a bore.
That's what it's for.
What? To bore?
It's literal same. Like that's how I feel about my cell phone.
Yeah.
See, this is really a clip that, because people get really upset when I say that I don't like Tom Baker, the insert number that we decided he
12.
Was here,
Sure.
Doctor.
I don't know if that's true, actually. Let me look at my spreadsheet again.
People get really upset because he's, like, super popular. But I hate looking at him. And this is really, like, goes to show because we have a bit where Romana is the one who has to clean through his shit. It's his shit. But it's her job to go through it, apparently. It's not like she has better things to do with her life. Gotta go through his assortment of stuff. And then... wants to ask, like, hey, I think this could be important. This could be something that's important. He was like, no, we don't need it. I don't need to ask for help or directions. I don't know what happens in this episode, but I feel like this might be some foreshadowing to something.
Okay, the Tom Baker is the 4th Doctor, actually, but it throws off... It does throw off 5th and 6th, or now 6th and 7th.
Oh wow!
Because I missed.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Who's the 5th Doctor then?
Wait. I'm gonna do this again. Ha ha ha. Okay.
If you listened a week ago, Becca is a liar.
Okay.
I've gone about my life for the last 7 days thinking I knew the new correct order of which Doctor is which, and apparently she got it wrong. This is one of many reasons why this timeline, this chronological order, is fundamentally flawed.
Ben, the only problem I have is that they keep making Marvel movies.
And this order isn't wrong. Tom Baker is wrong.
So, okay. So we've got Matt Smwunth, David Tennant, William Harthreenel, Tom Bakeford, Shooty Got 5, Peter Sixison, Colin Baker, Peter Capaldi. That hurt my brain. That hurt my mouth to say.
It's going very well.
Jody Nineker, David Tennant. No, David Bradley.
Oh.
Dave Ten Bradley. Paul McGillevan, 12 Venster McCoy.
So like a good strong British name, that.
Yeah, 12 Esther.
12 Esther. Hi, I'm 12 Esther. How are you doing?
And that's, as far as we know, all of the doctors that exist.
Yeah, cool. Anyway,
well, bye everyone.
Anyway, the doctor's busy playing with his dog.
Yeah.
So, also, I want to just doctor's busy playing with his.
Sitting on the ground like a drunk.
Yeah.
True. He's sitting on the ground like a drunk while K-9 reads Peter Rabbit to him.
This reminds me of when I was a kid and my parents would get drunk on Saturday nights, and then my dad would be hungover the next day. My mom would also be hungover the next day, but she would feel bad about her hangover and would just clean, and then would try to guilt him into also cleaning, and he wouldn't do it on account of he was hungover, and then she would just get mad at us because we were in her way and she was hungover.
So what you're saying is that Romana is heavily hungover in this scene.
I think they're all hungover.
I think the only sober and non-hungover one in this room might be K-9.
Yeah.
You shouldn't let dogs drink.
Definitely just trying to sober up his dad.
Hang on.
Just be like, Peter Rabbit, I don't know what to do in this situation. I'm just a robot dog.
Peter gave himself up for lost and shed big tears, but his sobs were overheard by some friendly sparrows, who flew to him in great excitement and implored him to exert himself.
Question. Can K-9 eat chocolate?
Can robots eat chocolate?
That's the question. If the answer is no, is it because he's A, a dog, or B, a robot?
All of the above.
He can eat krillitane. Well, I guess he doesn't eat it. He scans it.
Yeah.
Does he eat anything? I don't know.
I don't think we ever see him eating. He also does not have any, mouth apparatus.
Are you saying he's never been fed? I think that's every dog, actually. Every pet has never been fed.
The one pet in the cosmos that's never been fed. And every animal, every pet, every dog, every cat is like, yeah, see?
We've never been fed.
K-9 is like, in Doctor Who, there are like civilizations that have built mythologies around the Doctor and everything. I think that's also true of K-9. I think that's just like what dogs have done. It'd be like, yeah, none of us ever eat food or get fed, and it's really unfair.
Yeah.
We do so much. We save the world, presumably. I've never seen K-9 do anything. I've just seen K-9 be around. So I don't actually know what K-9 does other than be around very drunk people.
Yeah, that's his main job.
The other thing he does, as evidenced in this scene from Creature from the Pit, is hang around very hungover people. Those are two states.
Yeah. I mean, his main job in the TARDIS is probably to keep Tom Baker and Lala Ward from fucking.
I mean, the good service. Thank you for your service, K-9.
I just made K-9 Mandy's favorite character of all time.
Here's the thing, Mandy, is you acknowledge that there is a weirdness to Tom Baker's face. Some people find weird very alluring.
No, he's a frightening person And Lala Ward is the most beautiful woman living or dead. It hurts my heart.
Opposites attract sometimes, Mandy.
It
Opposites
makes me
attract.
believe that God is dead.
Mandy, I feel like you only think Lala Ward is the most beautiful person living or dead because you've only ever seen her next to Tom Baker.
That seems fair.
I'm like,
very fair.
She's not even the most beautiful actress to play Romana. Sorry. Get in the comments. Fight me, motherfuckers.
She's certainly the most alive.
She is. She is.
So
that.
are you saying that they've hired Tom Baker to make Lala Ward look more beautiful?
I mean, maybe.
In this order of watching, that's the only way that works.
Yeah. Who's the ugliest companion? No, we're not playing that game.
It's me. I think that the thing that I feel is really hammered home by this scene is the fact that the concept of this podcast is deeply flawed.
I hate Tom Baker.
I think the problem.
Wait,
with this
is that your biggest problem with this podcast, Ben? Is that Mandy hates Tom Baker?
When Sydney Verity sat down and wrote, filmed, directed, and broadcast the first episode of Doctor Who in a hurry on November 23rd, 1962.
She had no idea that Tom Baker... What was Tom Baker
He had no
born?
idea that he'd have to wait a whole other year for Kennedy to get killed before he could broadcast Doctor Who.
Yes, messed up. It's pretty messed up, but you know what? He did it, and he spent that year thinking about his forward-thinking casting decisions. He Sydney Verity very meticulously plotted out 60 years of Doctor Who so that there's a full... And I think what you're doing here is an affront to that, because obviously if you'd wanted us to see it in this order, it would have been broadcast in this order. I'm not making a new point, I just wanted to say the name Sydney Verity. It's stupid and I love it.
It's a good bit. I like it a lot.
It's a good name, but we also have to acknowledge the limitations of the 60s, and maybe this is the order that they wanted to do, and they were just limited because they have to use, like, they only have a limited budget, so you have to tell the stories that you think that you can tell at the time. You have, like, hey, what are the sets that we have available? What are the costumes we have available? These are the stories that we have to tell. And Becca has very graciously put it in the correct order.
Sorry! No, I'm thinking, okay, so what do we want the first scene to be? The Big Bang. Okay, when do we think we'll have the technology to properly capture it on the screen? 1982? Perfect, brilliant. Moving on.
Yeah.
What's the next scene we want? A big cliff. Do you want to use a quarry? No. Okay. Let's just put a pin in that for 2010. There's a kid who hasn't been born yet who might write that one for us later.
By your logic, all movies have to be presented in the order that they were shot. Do you think that they make movies and they film everything in chronological order?
Out of order. Every filmmaker knows that, Ben.
It's not about the filming, it's about the release.
Well, Becca released the correct order.
Wow, I've never been checkmate atheists so hard.
It's the same reason that George Lucas in 1977 was like, here, I have this great movie that I want to make. And people were like, I don't think we have the technical ability to make a pod race scene. You have to do something else.
And Ewan McGregor hasn't been born yet.
Yeah. It was a lot. Jake Lloyd definitely hadn't been born yet.
Yeah.
Like...
Can I talk about my Star Wars ignorance briefly?
Yeah,
Can I go on a little tangent? So
on this podcast?
My brother was the one who was mostly into Star Wars, and I had not watched them until he got it as a Christmas gift. He got like a box set of all of them. So we were just watching all of them. And one, I was always confused by, like, you really launched this series with episode 4, and then also watching the last one, I was like, wow, how did they really cast a guy back in, like, the 70s or 80s or whatever, who looks exactly like Hayden Christensen? That is wild. Is that like his dad or something?
Oh, you're talking about the 2004 DVD release, aren't you? Yeah. My girlfriend at the time, we bought that set because she fucking loved Star Wars, and we watched Return of the Jedi, and she said the exact same thing, and she was an adult.
I mean, I would have said that exact same thing as an adult, Benjamin. Me being a child did not have any contributing factor. I absolutely would have thought that now.
I grew up watching the original trilogy on VHS because my uncle had a copy of it, and so I just, like, every time I went to his house for, like, Thanksgiving or whatever, I would just coop myself up in a room and watch the whole trilogy. And then, like, I was sort of unaware that special editions had come out and, like, all this other stuff. So when I revisited them, like, you know, years later, and I didn't have the VHSs anymore, I got very confused about, like, all of the CGI in the 1977.
Did you
movie.
like know immediately that, like, it was different, or did you just think that your memory was wrong?
I honestly don't remember.
There's a bunch of stuff that, like, you watch now.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I thought the CG was a lot better, but now I'm looking at it again, and it's much.
I think I immediately, because I watched the original trilogy enough to be like, what? There's a lot of different stuff here, and then I probably Googled it because it was the age of Google by then. So it was disheartening.
You know what's also disheartening?
Tom Baker.
Exactly.
I want to throw something out there. Mandy and I don't know if you brought this up on the podcast before, and if you have, we can cut this out. So Mandy and I were recently at a party for a friend's birthday, and it's a friend who is a Doctor Who fan and has actually written for Big Finish. And he invited a friend of his, and Mandy was talking to this friend, and Mandy mentioned casually that she doesn't like Tom Baker. And this man started to vibrate with contempt.
So I mentioned it, not initially to this man. I was talking with his girlfriend, and we were kind of talking about stuff, and Ben and the person in question were having a separate conversation. And I mentioned it to the girlfriend, and she was like, oh, don't let him hear that. He'll become very upset. And I was like, I love making men upset.
It's good stuff.
And then I watched the panic in her eyes as she realized that I was now putting a problem in her lap.
I had already upset him because I said I didn't like John Pertwee, who you haven't met on the show yet.
She was going to have to get the thunder jacket for him that they put on dogs during lightning storms.
Good work, Mandy. You're doing the Lord's work, truly. I did want to talk about the ball of string.
To the Doctor, a souvenir with laughing thanks for all his help with the Minotaur. Theseus and Ariadne.
Yes. If I hadn't produced that ball of string to find a way out of the labyrinth, they were going to unravel my scarf, the wretches.
Oh, yes!
Sort of implies that the God complex is already, like, he's done this already? I don't know.
Well, he will be doing this.
Right.
But it is a weird thing of they can't throw it out yet because they have not done it chronologically. But he has already done it, but he does need to hold on to it on account of he will be doing it.
It is Matt Smith who's the first Doctor who's in the God complex.
But then also Troughton will later encounter the Minotaur in the Mind Robber.
That's true.
So
that's very true.
Tom Baker is talking about a thing he hasn't done yet twice.
So it took 2 doctors to deal with that Minotaur?
Yeah, but about 40 some years apart.
Were they talking to the same people? Or were they just like, because like you can be in that labyrinth and especially like you get lost, so I could see if they're just not bumping into each other.
True,
but
yeah.
could you like you're in the labyrinth?
You'd think the amount of times that the Doctor has shown up in London, just be like, he's never run into himself, like just by accident. Like, so yeah, I feel like if he
takes side
visited
streets sometimes.
I feel like if we visited the labyrinth 3 times in the history of time, it makes sense.
But I'm just imagining being in a labyrinth, and then a guy shows up, and you're like, okay, you're gonna help us, and then you get helped or whatever, it leaves, and then another guy shows up, and it was like, oh, I'm the same guy, but also I was with you previously. We're not going to talk about that.
No.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Checks out.
Yeah. So, what happens next, Mandy?
Yeah.
So they have their ball, and then they have a separate metal ball that is their cell phone, their emergency cell phone.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember back in the day, like, your elderly relatives would buy an emergency cell phone, but then they would keep it in the glove box of their car and keep it turned off? And it's like, if there is an emergency and I need to contact you, what you've done is you may as well have given me nothing.
Yeah.
And you've given me the number, and if I call it, nothing happens because you've got it's turned off in your glove. Leave your Nokia 3210 plugged in and switched on, because if there's an emergency.
Yeah, so Romana pulls out the Nextel flip phone that had that walkie-talkie bit on it, and it was like, oh, this is supposed to be so like Gallifrey can call you, and he's like, I don't like when they call me, so
yeah, he's very much I don't want that.
Which I respect. Again, like, yeah, I don't want people to call me. This is why eventually the doctor's gonna get psychic paper where people could just leave messages on it for him. Just text me. Like, that's easier. Don't FaceTime me. God. Please don't FaceTime me. I'm naked half the time. I'm talking about me now, not the doctor.
Okay. I mean, I do not want to FaceTime that face. That's not a face that should be on any devices.
Thanks a lot, Mandy. God,
I'm talking about Tom Baker. I love seeing your face.
Aw, thanks.
Seeing your face right now.
It's the exact opposite of Tom Baker.
It's Lala Ward.
It's Recab Mott.
You're just giving me compliments because you also had to look at Tom Baker's face recently. And I look much prettier everybody does. We all do. After we look at Tom Baker, we all just have rose-colored glasses for like a week.
Yeah, whenever I'm feeling bad about my body, I just look at a photo of Tom Baker.
Oh my god. I watched the BBC Order just because, like, Know Thy Enemy, and I watched the first part of Creature from the Pit. And,
what kind of creature is it? I really want to know what kind of creature it's gonna be.
Oh, easy. It's Tom Baker.
So he just falls in a pit, and then Romana's like, hey, if you had your emergency cell phone with you, it would be really useful. And he was like, hey, can you call someone? I think I broke my leg. And she goes, no, sorry, I can't. I gotta go feed this dog that doesn't eat.
I do think that it's very funny to me because in the BBC Order, what happens after this, it's like you should have this installed because it's for emergencies so that you can like call for help if you need it. Like, okay, the very first thing that happens when they land after this is Tom Baker gets captured.
Hey, Tomothy, quick sidebar. Maybe you should have the thing installed. So when shit goes south, you can hit a big button. Mm-hmm. Someone will come to help you.
Yeah, I've had grandparents that we really had to fight with for them to wear their life alert, so I get it.
I do think that the fact that they have now installed the emergency transceiver means that we've now seen in the Stitches in Time edit all of the times that the Doctor is in danger, and I think it's just going to be smooth sailing from here on.
Yeah,
oh yeah.
Boom.
Yeah. Done.
Because they can just hit that button whenever.
Yeah, they just hit that button.
And then they're out of it.
Yeah.
It's really sad that Adric had to die before they put this in.
If only they had OnStar, then they could have just saved Adric.
That's what Peter Davidson meant when it was like, oh, we did the best that we could, but I didn't have that installed, so...
Exactly.
But now it is. So anything that happens from now on is on purpose, and they're not in danger.
It's a very controlled environment.
Yeah, the doctor meant for that to happen.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
He seems like a competent man. If you can believe such a thing even exists.
I can't. I'm sorry.
Hi. This looks like a job for competent man. I'm good enough. Sorry, no, I'm good enough was the catchphrase of self-affirmation man. That's a different superhero. If
Tom Baker has to exist, if he must, and I've heard that he's a very nice man, and great, he can't control he should also exist with a paper bag just over.
Oh, like when Peter Parker joined the Fantastic Four.
Yeah! Peter Parker, Fantastic Four, but Tom Baker. I feel like it would have been a great time. Becca, can you make that edit? Can you make the paper bag edit?
Put a paper bag over his head every time he's in shot.
It's going to be a big bag because of his hair. Let's be fair.
Mandy, I think what we have to do is just every time you have to watch a Tom Baker clip for this podcast, just put a paper bag on the screen and sometimes it'll line up.
And then I only talk about those clips.
Yeah.
Perfect.
There are a lot of these little TARDIS scenes sprinkled throughout Stitches in Time, which is very amusing to me.
But not the memory TARDIS. So they are not getting their life forces drained from Perry and the Sixth Doctor.
Right.
No, not the Sixth Doctor. The
Seventh Doctor, we decided Colin Baker is.
Yeah, the Seventh Doctor.
This isn't gonna hurt anyone's brain at all.
Hey, you change the order, you change the numbering.
That is true. It's on me.
I mean, I thought we were... I guess because we were just agreeing that we were talking about the Doctors from their own timeline, but that is like the BBC edit is Doctor Who.
The thing is, with
timeline.
the whole Timeless Children thing, and the War Doctor in there, and the second 10th Doctor, and it's all... None of the order even makes sense from the BBC perspective either at this point.
Yay!
Scream of the Shalka Doctor's in there somehow.
I'll say this about Timothy Baker. I don't know if he still does this, but there was a time where... Because he lived in a village not too far from the town I grew up in. I never had an encounter with him, but I do know people who spoke of like being young kids bumping into him in like Sainsbury's in like the 90s or the 2000s going, "You're Doctor Who," and then he would engage with them and he was very friendly, and then at the end of it he would just give them a £1 coin.
Aww.
Here's a £1. Like, great, I'm buying 3 toffee crisps.
I feel bad for how much I dislike him. And it's particularly as the Doctor, and I think that, like, having seen pictures of him as an older person, I think that he aged into his face, but I think that he also aged out of kissing Lala Ward, and I think that's the main thing that makes me less frightened of him.
That's your favorite thing. See, I wonder if we watch, because we haven't watched like a long clip of Tom Baker, I wonder if you'll just sort of get sort of numb to it, you know?
Oh, I don't want that. I don't want to numb my senses that much. My therapist has advised that I stop trying to numb the pain.
Okay.
Of Tom Baker. We spent a lot of time talking about him.
Oh, God. Oh, no. Well, I'm glad that you are putting your sanity on the line for this podcast.
Yeah. I recently had a friend procure me shrooms because I had mentioned that I don't know how. So maybe that's how I get through Tom Baker. I just have to have an existential experience.
Yeah. That's how you'll get through Tom Baker. That's how you get through Torchwood. It's going to be...
I forgot we have to watch Torchwood. And I have to finish watching the Australian K-9.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no.
Which I imagine is just about K-9 flying around the universe, teaching dogs to tell people that they've never been fed.
Yeah. Just be like, hey, have you ever been fed? Because I've never been fed. And the dogs are like, I mean, I can't remember the last time I've been fed, so clearly it's never happened.
Yeah. It's true.
It's true.
This is also, isn't this the David Brierly or Brearley K-9?
Yes, it's season 17 K-9, which is, as well as being the non-John Leeson, if you will, K-9 season. It's also the season of the show that Douglas Adams was the script editor for.
What happened to John Leeson? Did he just wasn't feeling it?
You know, I feel like I know this one. I feel like it was I think he just didn't want to be associated with the character anymore, or contractual obligations elsewhere. Because either way, he came back the next season.
Yeah.
So canonically, K-9 has laryngitis this season. Not even kidding. That's why his voice is different.
Oh my gosh.
So what if he hadn't come back? Would he just always have laryngitis? Would it be like a Zooey Deschanel thing? Like, oh, and it permanently altered my voice.
Yeah. Or it'd be like how they handled Leonardo's recasting on the 2008 Ninja Turtles cartoon when they fired Jason Briggs for saying all those horrible things on Twitter, and they replaced him with... Who did they replace him with? Seth Green? I forget.
I feel like, okay, if a robot can get laryngitis,
yeah,
I feel like it can eat chocolate.
Yes, that's the argument.
Because I feel like laryngitis implies that K-9 has some, like, sort of... organic components.
There's meat in that bit.
There's...
So can get laryngitis, therefore can eat chocolate, therefore has been fed, therefore is not a dog? No, just that the animals that worship K-9 as the lord of never having eaten are wrong. Misplaced.
Do you think... Wait a minute.
That's how we got the split between dog Catholicism and dog Protestantism.
Dogicism.
Yeah. Not to be confused with Catholicism.
Catholicism.
I never really considered the fact that all pets might be lying. Because they just say that they've never eaten. And
here is how much of
blowing my mind right now.
Here's how much of lies. So our cat Chester originally he just lived in the neighborhood, and he chased squirrels, and he presumably fucked his way through every other cat that was outdoors, and lived his life. And then one day came into our apartment, but because he came
walked in.
Yeah, Mandy would leave food out for him at night, and then I remember waking up early one morning, like around 5:30, because I needed to pee. And coming back from the bathroom, I heard, is that screaming? That's a cat. And he was just out there screaming for food from 5 a.m. And now he lives with us and eats our pellets.
Flawless.
Mandy's going to go and procure a boy. If you're listening to the audio version of this show, you're missing out. To select audio navigation, press enter now. That is a deep cut Region 2 DVD reference.
Which I understand because I just watched it on...
Yay! I think Clayton Hickman, or it might not be Clayton Hickman, it might be someone else, sells a t-shirt that has that. To select audio navigation, press enter now, yeah.
You want to say hello to the people?
That's
what do you think about Doctor Who? What does Chester think about Doctor Who?
I don't know that Chester's actually sat down and watched it. DiGiorno loves modern Doctor Who, but didn't like classic Doctor Who. And your cat, when we first moved in together, your cat 2 Robocops, aka Murphy, loved classic Doctor Who.
Rest in peace.
Yes, rest in peace. Yeah. Loved classic Doctor Who, but was never keen on modern Doctor Who. And our working theory is that
She loved classic Doctor Who because it looked like a Lifetime movie, and she loved Lifetime movies. She loved Lifetime movies. She hated anime.
Well, she was correct in that assessment.
Do you know what else she used to love? Karaoke.
Aww.
She also, yeah. I didn't.
Oh yeah,
know
you
this.
told me about this, Ben.
Yeah, because I was not a singing person ever, but Ben is a singing person, and they would play Rock Band, and she would hop up on the couch and just start screaming next to them
into the microphone. I would have the guitar on, I'd have the mic on a mic stand, I'd be singing and playing, and then she'd come onto my lap and just go into the microphone. Perfect.
That's so good.
So they should have had K-9 should be a cat. They can keep the
still
name,
call
but
it
it should be a
K-9.
cat.
No, it would be Kit-E. Kit-E.
Ben, where can people find you on the socials?
I would rather they didn't. I'm Ben Paddon on Instagram. I'm benpaddon.net on Blue Sky. I'm a Ben Paddon on TikTok because Ben Paddon was taken, I think, by me in an earlier iteration of the app. Those are the main ones. I'm on Tumblr, benpaddon.tumblr.com. Find me on the socials. Listen to Jump Leads. Search for Jump Leads in your podcasting apparatus of preference. And also Good Chaotic, the actual play podcast, sci-fi actual play podcast that I'm a player on. And also the Game of Rassilon, which we did for 5 years, that both Mandy and Becca have appeared on. And also In Your Hearts.
I'm so sorry for interrupting you. But Becca, do we have a Tumblr for Stitches in Time? Because if not, I do have one.
Yeah.
You can find Stitches in Time at frandrescherahegau.tumblr.com. I'm resurrecting it.
Amazing. Just, post all our stuff on Tumblr.
Yeah.
I think that's a great plan. I do not.
Frandrescherahegau.
Incroyable.
I did want to we got very nice review on our podcast.
Oh.
What?
Our first review, which is actually, it was written a while ago, and I just keep forgetting to read it because I'm a monster.
Funny, smart, adorable, thoughtful, and nerdy. There is no better time than listening to Becca and Mandy talk through Doctor Who. Please never stop making this!
What a perfect review.
There were 3 exclamation points, so I hope that I got the right vibe of 3.
I feel like you nailed it. That was from Apple Podcast user smiley face with sunglasses emoji, pineapple emoji. So
I assume that they're swingers.
I think they're not swingers because there's 2 pineapples, so they cancel each other out.
So they're aggressively not swingers.
They were swingers at one point, and then they decided to stop. All right. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time on this ridiculous show.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to Stitches in Time. Music by Becca, the Matrix Archivist. Art by Mandy Okendo. Logo by Ben Paddon. Email us at matrixarchivist@gmail.com.
My brain just said, having sex is like riding a bike. I don't know how to ride a bike.
So glad we were rolling on that.
Right, but what can you possibly do with the old jawbone of an ass?
Don't be a Philistine.
What?
That jawbone's been about a bit, you know.
It was a very nice review, and because of the way that I read it, I was mostly thinking about the fact that when you read things, you're supposed to smile when you read things, so it sounds more upbeat, but I realized that sounded very sarcastic, so I promise I was not mocking you. Please do not be afraid to leave a review for this podcast, because I might mock you, because I'm not. That's just what I sound like.
To receive and send distress signals.
I was never in distress.
What?
Well, not often. I mean, not what you'd call often. Go on. Plug it in.
Do you know the scene in the original Clerks where they're describing the different types of guests that come in and they talk about the milkmaids who go sit there on the floor in front of the fridge going through all the milks, looking for the one with the furthest out expiration date? I have to imagine that happens at a Hot Topic. Like, you walk into a Hot Topic and there's someone on the floor, like, comparing boxes of Funko Pops.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I bet there is.
Yeah.
Don't be that person, listener.
No, just collect them and have fun.
Be better. Be the type of person that leaves a nice review on our podcast, and that we'll read it out 6 months after you leave it.
In definitely not a condescending tone. I'll work on it next time. I am also on this podcast with 2 actors, and they made me read it.
Okay, when you say made, you just found it sooner than I did.
Fair.
And if you don't want to read
stop me. Becca, you are a director? Some direction would have been nice.
Funny, smart, adorable, thoughtful, and nerdy. There is no better time than listening to Becca and Mandy talk through Doctor Who. Please never stop making this with 3 exclamation points.
There was a little
Why
bit.
were you seducing us?
It was seductive, but it was also as a little Zepp Brannigan.
That is kind of what I was going for, I think.
There's never been a better time to get into this podcast.
Famously not condescending at all. Zepp Brannigan.